this is Ivani from Hedgecraft Heirlooms, and I am here today to talk about how to have a pagan-friendly St. Patrick's Day. I'm trying this weird filter on Instagram. It makes my lips look like gigantic, and it's super distracting. I hope it doesn't super distract everybody else. Alright, let me just open up a second tab on my computer down here. New tab. Hey, Wild Green Child, we're going to be talking about pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day once I get myself all squared away here in just a minute. My computer does weird things where, like, if I don't have a second thing up, it will not show me everyone's comments. Oh, looks nice, thank you. I actually had real eyelashes on earlier today, and I kind of like pulled them off in a rage because I can never get the inner corners to lay right, so we're faking it today. Here we go. Here is, we're going to enlarge that.
Super distracting. I hope it doesn't super distract everybody else.
Here we go.
Oh, looks nice. Thank you.
Mute that. Perfect. Here we are. So like I said, the live stream all together today here is supposed to be about pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which actually is kind of controversial in the pagan community. But while we wait for folks to show up, because I just went live, thank you. I know she says you look beautiful. Well, again, a lot of it's the filter, so don't be too impressed. But while we wait for folks to show up, I thought we could talk a little bit about the symbolism of the Shamrock / Clover, which is a really big symbol that's used in St. Patrick's Day. So the word shamrock itself is actually derived from the Irish word for clover. And that in and of itself, I feel like kind of makes a lot of sense when I think about the confusion of the language in that. Because the clover that's often referred to in Irish folklore was actually most likely a white clover. And I don't know where everybody here lives. Filtered Heart Girl's best friend. Well, they certainly don't hurt. So white clovers. Where I live, those grow wild like everywhere. And they're those little white flowers. And the leaves... well, let's first of all, because what I want to talk about is the idea of a clover versus a shamrock. Because they're actually very different things. And people mix them up all the time. Usually clovers, there's two main varieties. There's red clovers and there's white clovers. Both of those grow wild around where I am. I live in New England, in the northeast region of the United States. And they usually have a single lobed leaf, often with like a little white chevron, like V shape inside of it. And they are often used to support women's health. And they usually are 3 leaves on a single stem. So those are, when you think about the idea of like a 3 or a 4 leaf clover, that's usually what people are talking about. However, a shamrock, when we see a lot of the illustrations of shamrocks, like even like the one that I used for my post here today, actually is more accurately a completely different kind of plant. So they make them these like heart-shaped leaves more often than not. And clovers actually don't have heart-shaped leaves, which I always thought was really interesting that we kind of get them confused. But the plant that most people think of as shamrock, especially if they see it out in the wild, is a plant called wood sorrel, also called American shamrock, as you might imagine. So it grows actually little tiny yellow flowers, very, very different looking than clovers. They're much smaller. I think there's 5 petals, but don't quote me on that. I didn't actually double check that before I wrote all this down. And actually it's kind of neat because people often use those leaves like a salad green, because even if you just pluck them right off the plant, they actually have like a lemony taste to them. They taste really, really yummy. They're really, really good. And they're actually used as a diuretic. It can be used to reduce fever, increase appetite, and reduce topical inflammation. So like if you put it on the skin, that's what they mean by topical. So very, very different plants, very, very different properties. But when people talk about a clover like being used for luck, or to represent like the 3-leaf clover that you see in a lot of like Catholic St. Patrick's Day imagery, is actually supposed to be a clover, not a shamrock per se. Very confusing. I just wanted to clarify that because I think that's a very interesting crossover we have, and the reason, of course, being because of the language. How I was talking about at the very, very beginning, that the word shamrock is derived from the Irish word for clover. So let's talk about the difference between 3 and 4-leaf clovers. So I mentioned in passing that the 3-leaf clover is often seen in a lot of Catholic imagery. So the 3-leaf clover is often used, especially around St. Patrick's Day. It's sort of a symbol of St. Patrick himself, because he was known for using it to sort of illustrate the concept of the Holy Trinity. to the pagans that he was at that time kind of preaching to. I was trying to think of what the least offensive term was there. I was like, proselytizing? Converting? Let's say he was preaching, that he was preaching to. He was using 3-leaf clovers because he was like, there are 3 leaves but 1 plant. So you have the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, but 1 being. It's also said that each leaf has a different meaning. So 1 means faith, 1 means hope, and 1 means love. And there, a lot of the stuff and information that's about St. Patrick out there talks about how, he was using otherwise pagan symbolism to explain Christian concepts. And although I couldn't find any specific information to suggest this out there, it kind of makes you wonder if originally the 3-leaf clover represented another triple something, a triple god, a triple goddess, some sort of 3-aspect something. I'm inclined to think so, especially because one of the most popular Celtic goddesses was Bridget, who was known to be a triple aspect goddess herself. So I suspect that there was a little bit of crossover there. But then 4-leaf clover, so I don't know if you've noticed, and because I've noticed because I've been using them a lot this week, that if you look in your emojis, there's actually both. There's a 3-leaf clover and there's a 4-leaf clover, and they actually mean different things. So the 4-leaf clover symbolizes, so each leaf again has a different meaning. So it means, again, faith, hope, and love. And the 4th one represents luck. And a lot of sources seem to suggest that was an association that was first drawn in the 17th century. And possibly based on a pagan belief, but again, I wasn't able to kind of trace it any further back than that. And 4-leaf clovers are said to basically be a type of protective amulet, and they protect against accidents if you carry it. It's also said to encourage balance in life, because when you think about 4, we think about a table, we think about the 4 corners of something. So the idea of balance and stability also comes in. And there's even some folklore to suggest that it was believed to be a portal to other parallel realms or universes, which is kind of interesting too. So that's what I had today really quick about clovers. Now we're going to get into what we actually came for, which is the pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And I didn't say it yet because I got totally caught up with chatting with Wild Green Child here about Clovers and Shamrocks. But if you're here watching, make sure you throw a hashtag live into the comments. If you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay. It helps the algorithm kind of reach its little fingers out and find other people who might be interested in watching. And I appreciate it. And especially for folks who are on Facebook, it lets me see that you're here, because otherwise Facebook likes to nerf things and it doesn't show me names like Instagram does, which is nice. So say hi, I want to say hello. And this is always supposed to be a conversation. It's supposed to be a back and forth. It's not supposed to be the Avani Show, which is my name, by the way. So yeah, if you have any comments, just feel free to throw them out there. And that said, let's talk about pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So in my blog earlier this week, I kind of went into, hey Brooke, you got here just in time for me to get to the good stuff, talking about pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So if you read my blog earlier this week, I talked about, oh, hey Michelle, glad you're here too. You guys are here just in time for the good stuff. I just finished my little intro where we were talking about the symbolism of 3- and 4-leaf clover, so if you're interested in checking it out, you can go back and rewatch it after. But in my blog this week, oh hey, 2 offerings, man, it's a party. And Elle, man, everybody's here all of a sudden. Hey! So in my blog earlier this week, it's called The True Story of St. Patrick, that's what it was. And I'll give you the summarized version real quick, just so it makes sense. I kind of want to lay the groundwork for why we're even talking about this today. So St. Patrick obviously is sort of the reason for the holiday. It's named after him. But the myth goes that he through his preaching, he basically banished all the snakes from Ireland, and they basically fell off a cliff and died. I know that sounds kind of crazy, a little ridiculous, but there's a lot of for a long time, and there's still a lot of people that believe this. A lot of academics believed that was a metaphor for St. Patrick basically converting all of the Irish pagans to Christianity. And a lot of modern pagans don't particularly love the idea of celebrating a holiday that's all about converting people away from a perfectly good spiritual path that people were already on and didn't probably really want to be taken from. So today I'm coming at you with some things about St. Patrick's Day that you can celebrate as a pagan and still get to enjoy the holiday. So the modern holiday of St. Patrick's Day. So originally it did start as a festival in Ireland. But the modern festival of St. Patrick's Day that we celebrate today was actually an outgrowth of American Irish immigrants who wanted to bring a bit of Ireland to America. That they wanted to help themselves feel like they were more at home. And because originally it was actually a very solemn holiday, like they went to church, they went home, they had a meal, that was probably it. And since then, it's turned into this crazy business it is now. And in America, we added things like parades, which are an interesting. There's a lot of specific things that are very American about St. Patrick's Day because we kind of not we, but Irish American immigrants in particular kind of made it what it is today. So the parades, the revelry, the green beer, the green face paint, that's very American. And of course, obviously, it's grown a lot in popularity since then, and a lot of the things that American Irish immigrants kind of started here ended up moving its way back to Ireland. So if you go to Ireland for St. Patrick's Day, they do a lot of similar things too, but a lot of it started with the Irish American immigrants, which is kind of interesting. So of course, one of the big hallmarks of any St. Patrick's Day celebration is feasting, or really, if you've been paying attention to any of my lives or anything at all, every holiday is about feasting and food. Every holiday has its own special foods. I'm going to say it again because I see I have some other people, especially on Facebook. If you're here watching, please throw a hashtag live into the comments. Hashtag replay if you're watching on the replay. On Facebook, especially because it lets me see that you're here so I can say hello because it doesn't show me who's here. And of course on Instagram because it helps the algorithm. Hey Kelly, thanks for saying hi. So feasting, the hallmark of all holidays. So interestingly, a lot of the foods that, again, in America, we associate with St. Patrick's Day are very American and not necessarily traditionally Irish. The biggest example of which is actually corned beef. Corned beef is actually not a traditional Irish food. We kind of made it up. And I suspect it was just because beef was at whatever time they were creating these traditions must have been very plentiful. And they went, oh, let's use this. But some actually traditional Irish foods are things like bacon and cabbage, Irish soda bread, which I was in the grocery store the other day. It's everywhere. You can just buy it. You don't even have to make your own. Everywhere. Stew, a traditional Irish dish called colcannon. If someone's here who knows what colcannon is, if you just want to put it into a comment, because I wasn't smart enough to make a note for myself, so everybody else can find out, that'd be great. Cottage pie, which I do know what that one is. It's usually meat and cheese and potatoes. it's very starchy, but delicious because I've made it and very fatty. If you're on like a low carb diet, it's a really cool thing to make and use cauliflower on top. Anyway, I totally off topic, but I've made it keto before and it was so good. So, like I said, American additions, corned beef and cabbage, that's a very American kind of thing that's been added. What else? And so it's one of the things you can do for St. Patrick's Day other than the eating, especially if you're not all about stuffing your face for holidays, although most of us are, let's be real. Some other things that you can do on top of that is researching Celtic deities. Obviously, the Celts have a vast and wide mythology, that you can work within, or at the very least research and learn about, especially if it's part of your heritage. Some of the deities that are Celtic in origin that, may resonate with you, that you might be interested in, are Cernunnos, Dagda, who I believe is the actual giant, big father, the sky god of the pantheon, like the Zeus of the Celtic pantheon, if I'm not mistaken. Bridget, I mentioned her earlier, one of the most popular Celtic goddesses of all time, who's actually, actually was eventually canonized as a saint and still effectively worshipped today, which is kind of neat. The Morrigan. Gaelic, which is I think how you pronounce it, is like a weird Gaelic word, so I might be butchering it, but it's spelled Callieach, Gaelic. I looked it up once, so I think that's correct. Lugh is another one, so especially if it's interesting because a lot of the modern pagan holidays are based around these Celtic deities, these Celtic holidays, so Bridget is associated with Imbolc and Lugh is associated with Lunasa, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Lammas. And those are opposite on the Wheel of the Year too, so you get, one on either side that are very, very Celtic inspired. And then of course Beltane and Samhain, also Celtic, but I digress again. Other things you can research about Celtic mythology is fairy folklore, because the Irish were really big into their fairy stories. Kind of interesting, I hope Michelle's still here, I actually ordered a book from her earlier this week, or last week, I can't remember when it was exactly, because she did a whole book drop. And it was about Irish fairies and folklore. And I'll admit, I haven't gotten to reading it yet. But I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping to get to do so then, like, the next week or so, kind of flip through it at the very least and check it out. Because a lot of the folklore and stories and information we have about the fairies comes from Ireland and the Celts. So it's really cool. And obviously with Beltane coming up, sorry, that's my idiot dog in the background who's very overexcited all the time. With Beltane coming up, Beltane to me is a huge fairy holiday. So to kind of, oh, hey Aubrey, glad you're here on Facebook. Hopefully my screen keeps pausing, so I hope that on Facebook you guys are hearing me okay. There's not much I can do about it. So if you're having issues, let me know. Mine's being funny. Hopefully it's going to work out okay. Beltane, fairies, go hand in hand. So it's a great time to start thinking about researching, learning more about them, and you can ultimately incorporate that in your Beltane celebrations, you know, in a month or two. So that's kind of a cool thing too. Another thing that is associated with St. Patrick's Day, as pagans, a lot of people, instead of referring to it as St. Patrick's Day, will call it All Snakes Day. I talked earlier about the myth of St. Patrick banishing or getting rid of all the snakes, and a lot of people believe the snakes represented the pagans. So All Snakes Day is basically saying, hey, guess what, dude? We're all still here. So a lot of people prefer to use that term instead. So work with the energy and the symbolism of snake. Research what the symbolism of snakes are. Snakes are really highly associated with this time of year, with the idea of the earth kind of shedding its skin, winter leaving, spring coming, you know, all these new things. So snakes are a really great thing to check out too. Work with the energy of green. If you have been following me for a little while, you might know that last fall sometime, I believe, I actually did a live just like this about the magic of the color green. And that's a really great resource. And if you're on Instagram, actually, I'm pretty sure you can find that on my IGTV channel. If you're on Facebook, of course, you can find that on my YouTube channel. If someone's interested in me posting a link in the comments, let me know. I will throw it in there. But if you're already on my VIP list and you already get my email, that was linked from I believe it was linked in my midweek check-in that went out on Wednesday, and I think it was in the email from today too, actually, because I wanted to make sure everybody got it. So you can go check that out, because that's kind of a fun way to kind of get into the fun of the season for St. Patrick's Day too. And of course, and this is, if you live somewhere where you can do this, where I live right now, it's still too cold. But another fun thing you can do is you can go search for 4-leaf clovers if you live somewhere where everything is currently actually growing, because where I am, things aren't growing yet. Things are melting and muddy and wet and gross. Can't wait for that stage to be over. But again, I would say, you know, especially 3-leaf clovers, or 4-leaf clovers, not 3-leaf clovers, because as a reminder, the 3 is very highly associated with St. Patrick and the whole Catholic thing. And again, it might have originally been a pagan symbol, but we don't really know for sure. But 4-leaf clovers are the ones that are a protection amulet. They're lucky and are the ones that you want to find. And then final thing I have here. Hey, Grim Girl. Glad you're here. We were just talking about pagan-friendly ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, although I'm actually just about to wrap up the actual educational content part. And then after that, what we always do is we usually do a little live. A video has ended. Facebook just like randomly nerfed my video. Well, I'm going to finish telling you up here. That's super annoying. I am hanging there with me. I have to restart this whole video. Copy. Let's go back to Hedgecraft Heirlooms. We'll do that again. Create post. Where is it? Add to story. It won't even let me go live. What the heck? Create post. Try again. No. Oh, it's right here. Duh, there's a whole button that says go live. That would help. But what I was going to say is that another thing that you can do is you can, if you are certain that it's there for sure, is you can, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do things at the same time, and that is not my strong suit. If you might want to hang around Wild Green Child, because I'm going to be doing a curated live sale and free 1-card tarot readings here very shortly. I just need to restart this video here again. I'm just going to call this part 2. Ugh. And we're going to go live again. I don't know why I did that. Alright. live again. Here we are. Anyway, research your Irish heritage, especially if you know that you have any. If you don't know that you have any, it might be worth looking into your ancestry. I'm really lucky. I always wanted to do it, but a couple of years ago, my husband actually got me one of those ancestry kits for, I think it was for Christmas. And I am actually like, I don't know, like 10, 12, something percent like that Irish. Very, very European. You can see I'm very white. So it could be a really great time. Oh, Aubrey came to me on Instagram because Facebook was being funny. I just restarted it on Instagram, or on Facebook rather, because it literally just like turned itself off, which is really annoying. So we'll see. Maybe, hopefully Kelly will find her way back because she's the only other person that was there. Let me just blow that up for myself. All right. That said, I'm glad everyone is here. I just realized I didn't wave at anybody today. I was so like into like what I was doing. I'm gonna wave at everybody. Wave at everybody. All right. So let's get to. Oh, real quick, I'm gonna do a little sign off because usually when I upload this to YouTube, I kind of cut off the end part. So I'm gonna do a little goodbye to all the folks that are watching on YouTube. So if you're here watching on YouTube, thank you for joining me for Pagan-Friendly Ways to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Do feel free to tune in next week. Next week, we're going to be returning to my 20th century witchcraft series and talking about the 1940s. And I'm super stoked about that. So that said, thank you for being here. I hope you have a very happy St. Patrick's Day. And